every Bond movie. Look at look at Austin Powers. So,
I don't know about that. I'm going to hold you to that. What exactly was he trying to do at the beginning? He was trying to kill Batman. Did he go through all this trouble putting, by the way, this is way up your alley, loading that vault with acid, and then, like, did he need to lift it out with a helicopter? I don't know. Well, like, how much of this was really, like, premeditated to say, okay, we're going to do all this just to kill Batman. We're not going to steal any money, really. I don't care about that. Like,
he has two sides. He has two sides, though. So I think they, instead of making good sides on either way, they compromise and they just go crazy.
Are you saying that a criminal mastermind, however conflicted,
he's not a criminal mastermind. He's a blunt force trauma guy. He was a DA who went crazy. So a lot of his schemes, at least for me, are not going to be Blofeld-esque. They're going to be let's put acid in a safe halfway in, not all the way up to burn them, and then let's pull them away. And his thugs seem to enable him. He's around with yes men, and he has those two women that support both sides of him.
Okay, so let's clarify this, because you're talking about yes men as luchadors, basically, and I believe it's Sugar and Spice are his henchwomen.
Yeah, Drew Barrymore.
And Debbie Mazar, yeah, completely over the top and just ridiculous, and really just a betrayal of the character in the comics. I mean, if you look at something like Arkham Asylum, the graphic novel by Grant Morrison, this is a guy who's completely lost his marbles. He's cowering under tables, pissing himself because he's just so out of his element. He can't think for himself and is completely and wholly reliant on a coin. That may be an extreme, but it's certainly a territory that I'd prefer them have taken with the character, besides him aping, in my opinion at least, the Joker. Because there's so many scenes where he's just making weird noises and hamming it up.
I love watching Tommy Lee Jones ham it up, because nowadays when you hear him on sets or on interviews, he's just rough on everybody.
Oh, sure.
So maybe this was the beginning of the end of him, but I like that he committed. I've never seen a Tommy Lee performance, and I know what you're saying, but I just think he's just a blunt force guy who
I cannot sanction his buffoonery.
I hate you.
Yes. And that's, of course, most of our listeners probably know this, but that's precisely what he told Jim Carrey, according to a Howard Stern interview, I believe.
I would have liked to have just... all right, so this movie, though, I find it very impressive that he brought it in under budget and ahead of schedule, because it doesn't have that vibe of being an ahead of schedule, under budget movie.
No, it seems a bit of a patchwork at times, and I believe he mentions the number on the Rose interview. I think
78 million.
Was it like 80 million almost? And I'm like, boy, that's pennies in today's budget. So I do hand it to him for that.
It's like 130 maybe, I guess, with inflation, 130, 140.
Yeah,
I don't think it's quite double yet, so probably 130, maybe 140. I mean, I'd say 130. I mean, that's really not much.
I suppose not, especially for a a production like Batman, which I think has been Warner Brothers. It was Warner Brothers' cash cow for a long time, and it was for another time with the Nolan era, and well, now who knows? But yeah, at the time, it was a smaller investment, I think.
And I don't know. It's just so. And Schumacher did get mad, and what he said was, he's like, "What is he comparing it to? Potemkin?"
That was a little extreme. Like, yeah, okay, they don't like your movie because it's not the Battleship Potemkin. Sure, whatever.
I mean, that is an easy out. But just watching this movie, though, it has a very weird personality. The plot is out there. I don't know. For some reason, though, the whole vibe, it has it's quite uneven, but the vibe overall when you watch it, and it's so weird that it's almost enjoyable to me.
That's fair, and I think that's why most kids like myself at the time probably didn't give two shits about the faults and cracks. But you do have to remember, even with all that sort of joy that you might get from it. Now I'm Marie Kondo, but the joy that you do get from it, it still has some really inexplicable, wacky moments. I mean, how many memes have come from this movie? You remember, the laundry, martial arts bit.
Oh my gosh.
And what else? Oh, the thumbs up in the bat plane, and just, I mean, what else was there? The Dragon Course, and the smile he gives after Chase admits her love for Bruce, like, this movie is full of just like, what?
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
I do have a question. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Every extra ever. If you watch this, you just watch the movie. Any extra in this movie is either like having a complete meltdown, orgasm, or just shouting, just like random words. The guy who sees Batman crash through the ceiling, I just love that part.
It's Batman, right?
No, it's very specific. Like, as a kid, you see Batman, and you're like, oh, that's sick, that's cool. But now as an adult, I watch that scene, it's like, this is my impression of the guy who sees Batman not use a door like a regular person. Hey, Batman! Literally what he does. He's pointing too, as if we can't see. And Chase, of course, has her like turnaround dramatic moment. But like, I don't know, just every extra in this movie was just told, okay, do you see what Jim Carrey's doing? Do you see what Tommy Lee Jones is doing? Do that.
Yeah, I mean, it was heightened aesthetic for sure.
I think that's an appropriate adjective, is heightened, for sure.
Jon Favreau had a cameo in this movie.
No way. What is he?
When they're going into the Joker's, not the Joker's, when they're going into the Riddler, Jim Carrey's office in the beginning, he's one of the suits with Val Kilmer. Yeah, I paused. I was like, that's Jon Favreau. And then I have another question, an earnest question I want to ask you. Does Chase Meridian, does she not know that bats aren't rodents? Does she think that bats are rodents?
So you're saying, I think if I'm understanding you correctly, the theory is that she may have been just like negging Batman, basically, which is to say, like, have that playful banter and wait to be corrected, or are you saying like she genuinely didn't know? I mean, I don't know. I get the sense that she was just like, oh, she's a psychologist or whatever. She wouldn't know this area of science. I don't know. What do you think?
I don't think she. I mean, people got to know that bats aren't rodents, right?
I don't think so. I think it's a pretty common misconception.
What?
You're telling me that everybody's going around saying, bats are definitely not rodents? Like, if you look at them, they kind of look like flying rats.
Wait, people are going around saying that bats are rodents?
Look, I'm not going to be the guy who knows what the word on the street is. Okay, but
I need to get you with a microphone out on the streets recording this for our next podcast and just asking people.
I don't know if this is what I want to do with my time in New York City.
Add them on the streets. Hey, guys.
Do you remember in the Batman Forever, the part where Dr. Chase Meridian asks Batman, blah, blah, blah. No, I don't know.
Please do this. I want to hear this now. Also, they steal sound effects, I believe, from Ernest Saves Christmas. Oh, no, Ernest goes to jail, this movie. When the guy, when one of the thugs gets electrocuted, he goes, rah, 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 rah. That's the same noise in Ernest Goes to Jail.
I like that you so accurately emulated that noise, because I can just put my finger over my mouth and go, blah, 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 and that's what they did. And you're right, because those movies are just full of like 90s zoink sound effects, and it just feels out of place even for a Batman movie. It was really weird, and I should know this. Was it no, it wasn't. I can't remember who did the score. I certainly know who was on the soundtrack, which we'll get to in a bit, but the score is, it has its differences and it has a few motifs that are okay, but it is just wackadoo, like just a bipolar score if I ever heard one.
But that's what this movie is, really, to me. This is not
reflective of the movie, but still. This
is a very weird movie. This is not a coherent single through line film. This is like the pinball machine of movie.
I think the best excuse / defense for that point is that this movie, believe it or not, and you probably know this, does have an extended sort of story that was cut, and it had a lot to do with the title, in fact. And I would say, to your point, this does suffer from an identity crisis, which is precisely what the movie was supposed to be about. A lot of people don't really maybe not know this. The movie wasn't just called Batman Forever because Batman Forever or whatever. Like, I couldn't think of another sequel name like Batman 3. This movie had a lot to do with, obviously, Bruce reminiscing about his past and asking himself why he still does this. And there is a pretty earnest and dramatic / extremely goofy bit that you can actually find pretty easily online. But the subplot is him sort of asking why he does this, and he encounters a bat in the cave. And at some point, he has a come to Jesus moment where he reveals he will, in fact, be Batman forever. And this thesis is kind of wasted because obviously it was cut out, but there are hints of it again when he sort of talks to Enigma at the end when he defeats him. He sort of sells him the same thing that he comes to realize in the Batcave. But you can definitely find it online. It does involve literally a giant bat, and he's just sort of like staring it down, and it's kind of goofy in that way. But I do feel like that thread of story would have probably been better included had they kept it.
Because he doesn't stay with Meridian at the end, right? So he's kind of like, I'm choosing Batman.
It is and it isn't. I think they took I think they chickened out on the end because it's a very Vicky Vale bit, right? Yeah. It's like, don't stay out too late. Like, oh, he's going home to hit that, but Batman first, right? Batman before Chase.
I mean, she's a busy lady. You know, she probably doesn't have time for that, so she's probably happy with it.
Who is she seeing at that late at night if she's a psychiatrist? What is she doing? Playing with her Malaysian dream dolls? No. She's not. She's probably waiting for Batman. And you know how she feels about Batman.
She loves Batman. So all three of these things I listened to today just kept selling the sound effects of Nicole Kidman with Batman. But I do want to say one great positive thing about this movie is I'm pretty sure that it funded the neon and blacklight industry for about 4 years between this and Batman and Robin.
Yeah, I think going back to like that era, and hell, even still, like if you go into a Spencer's Gifts, like it's pretty much still like Batman Forever themed.
That's funny.
Like the lava lamps and like the little like electric black light setups. It's like, yeah, this is Batman Forever.
Oh, that's funny. All right, and then so let's see, where are we at here? Oh, I do like the line, the bat signal is not a beeper. I like that she's just paging Batman, Chase Meridian.
Yeah, and never mind the fact that phrase is already horrendously outdated. Like, talk about
bad.
A reference that's like completely useless now in any script. But
and they said chicks dig the car, and I'm like, oh, brother.
I mean, yeah, he was just being like playful, like, oh, Batman's not such a sad sack piece of shit all the time. Oh, he has a sense of humor. And actually, I don't know. I mean, I think it's a forgettable stint, but I loved Val in the role. I thought he was a wonderful Bruce Wayne. I thought he looked the part. He had the voice, and that's something that we overlook because we're talking about favorite Batmans. I think Keaton will always be number one for me, just for many reasons, variety of reasons. But here and now, I would say that for my money, looks-wise and voice, Val was great.
Oh, no, I liked him, too. People made fun of his mouth being open a lot, but it's probably hard to breathe in that costume, and he was trying to do a pouty thing, probably.
I don't understand the point of that. Like, why do you want him to have his mouth closed the whole time? He's tired. That suit probably weighs a lot and probably is very hot. Yeah, and it's actually kind of funny because now I'm thinking about the way Val Kilmer sounds now, which I shouldn't make fun of because he's had a lot of hardships. But if you've heard his voice now, it's definitely nowhere near as it sounded back then. And the poor guy has been through the ringer, but he actually was dubbed, I think we might have talked about this at one point, in The Snowman. And it's wild because it's not his voice at all when he's on screen. It's somebody else they called in to do his voice. And even then I'm like, this fucking goofy as shit.
The Snowman, I don't know how that ended up bad. You have the guy who directed Let the Right One In and Fassbender. Then you have, Mission Impossible, Rebecca Ferguson.
A ton of people on that. And J.K. Simmons, we're not going to get on that tangent, but I'm going to tell you right now, I looked into that because it was wild to me too. They ran out of time. Ran out of time.
Yep.
Thomas Shoemaker did what she could, but at any rate.
And I read those books too. I've read that book.
Okay, I'm not going to divulge too much on this because who knows who's listening and wants to actually see it, but can we talk about the fact that the hero's name is Harry Hole?
Holy.
I'm sorry, it was Harry Hole in the movie.
I've always pronounced it Harry Holy. But it's Norwegian too, so it's not. Okay.
So on paper, it definitely reads Harry Hole to me.
Oh, it does, yeah, for sure. But I always just read it as Harry Holy.
All right, well, they have a very good sense of humor over there. I'll give them that. But Jesus Christ, how is that your pro tag?
Yeah. I don't know, that movie. Do you think Fassbender would be a good Batman?
That's interesting because I think he could have been. I don't know if I like him at his current age for it. And he's definitely got a look, and I would recommend him for other roles, maybe even a Bond at some point. But no. Nah. I mean, I think if he had a window opportunity, that probably passed.
After watching The Bodyguard, I think Richard Madden should be Bond.
Yeah, that's what I keep hearing. Everybody's all about him, and I'm curious as to who the next Batman will be. I mean,